Hi, everybody. Welcome back. David Robertson from the Financial Center once again to just share some thoughts with you. Well, here I want to talk about bubble, AI bubble. Now, I've had people come in and ask us about, hey, Dave, I've seen these stories circulating on the internet about we're in a bubble and it's going to burst. Let's talk about that. What is a bubble? A bubble is simply where prices rise because of hype or expectations, and today it's AI, artificial intelligence. They rise and rise based on that hype, and history tells us that if reality in the future doesn't meet expectations, then we get a pullback or the bubble bursts. I'm not calling for a bubble. I don't know if we're in a bubble. That's unknowable. But Dave, markets are getting all-time highs. Yes, that's what markets do, is they get to all-time highs. However, a phenomenon that's happening today is this, that we have essentially 7 companies. You may or may not have heard of the term the Magnificent Seven, that are driving the returns of 500 of the greatest companies here in this country, the S&P 500. So I say again, 7 companies are driving about 40% of the returns for the last 3 years from 500. Does that seem normal? It is unusual to have that happen. Does that mean that the other companies are not profitable, the other 493? Of course not. They're great companies and they have profits. They are simply not the sexy ones today that are driven by people buying and buying with the hopes that someday they're going to return a whole bunch. Time will tell. Now, there's no better time to prepare for the storm than when the sun is shining. So, what are we doing and what should you do? I'm not calling for a bubble by any stretch of the imagination, but I know at some point there will be a correction. Here's what we've been doing. Tim and I have talked to many of the managers that we work with for the last 5 years, and specifically the last 3, about this very problem. They're absolutely tuned in to what is going on. Our goal long term is to sell high and to buy low as successful investors. Well, what we have today is many of those companies that have risen to very high multiples, and those are the 7, and then we have the other 493. Here's what our managers are currently doing and have been doing, is they're working the plan. They have been systematically selling off many of these shares, taking bits and pieces to move down to here. Isn't that exactly what we want? Yes. Now, not sell the whole things because things can always go higher, but that's what's been happening. They are working the plan on our behalf. What should you do? Simply do what we've coached you to do. Stay diversified. Understand that corrections are normal, and at some point we will have a pullback. I don't know when, and I don't know where, but when it does happen, you simply say, Dave and Tim told us that was going to happen. This is normal, and those short-term pullbacks are the temporary price that we must pay in order to have those long-term returns that we've got to enjoy. If you have questions, you need to talk, please just give Tim or myself a call. Till next time, we'll see you soon. Bye now.